Hello everyone, I'm Aman and welcome back to Master Chess. Today, I'm not covering the Magnus Carlsen Invitational at which has no decisive games yesterday. So today, I'm gonna show you a game played between the magician Mikhail Tal and Isaak Big Dragon. So here, Isaak is white and Tal is black. Isaak opens with the move 1 d4, knight to f6, c4 and c5 the Benoni defense. d5, e6 and knight to c3. E takes, c takes and now d6 blockading the pawn so that it can't go any further later. e4, so g6, trying to put the bishop here which is a monster bishop in the Benoni. Knight to f3 and bishop to g7. Bishop d3, castles and castles. Here a better choice for Isaak instead of castling would have been h3, and this is widely regarded as an excellent setup for white now. And now b5 is highly theoretical. But Isaak avoids it with castles and knight to a6. Here, according to me, bishop to g4 should have been played to prevent knight d to maneuver, and in general, in the Benoni, black is happy to exchange the light square bishop for the knight, gaining dark square influence in the center. But he goes for knight to a6, knight to d2 and knight to b4 attacks the bishop. The knight just looks good here. It is not actually good because it does not do anything here. And now bishop to e2. Better choice would have been bishop to b1, which controls the king side and is eyeing down the king side, and it also contains the knight better. Now rook to e8, a3 and knight to a6, rook to e1 and knight to c7. These are all natural moves, maybe not the best of the moves, but pretty natural. Queen to c2, rook to b8, trying to attack down the queen side. a4, this move somewhat tries to stop the plan down the queen side. And now b6, knight to b5. This maneuver makes no sense. What is the purpose of this? The tempo spent and the exchange of the knight on c7 later only aids Mikhail Tal. a6, Tal was not gonna slow down his plan. Knight takes and queen takes. Here, rook to a2 was played. Now in this position, the idea behind rook a2 is removing the rook from the x3 of this bishop. But when the rook moves to a2 and you see this position, you ask, how do I activate my rook? And the answer is it's very difficult to do so. Queen to e7, Tal immediately trying to gain counterplay down the king side. And now there's only one person whom we should fear when he attacks, it's Mikhail Tal. f3. Now this move proves to be a massive error, as this move accomplishes nothing and blocks the bishop on e3. Tal responds massively. Tal responds powerfully. Knight to h5. Whenever your opponent makes a move, ask yourself what they have left undefended or what they have left hanging, and try to exploit that. Here, the h5 square was left undefended but the bishop controlled it, but now f3 just blocks it. Now, knight to f1 and f5 is the best break in the Benoni, whenever you can get it. Bishop to d3, just hoping that black will take and will have a good position, but f4. Now in this position, black has a good attack, and the plan of bishop e5, king h1, king h8, h6, g5 is very deadly. And now g4, Birbiga tries to reverse the course of the game and tries to gain counterplay, but Tal responds aggressively as well. Now he played the move bishop to d4 check. A lesser player might have lost an advantage by exchanging or retreating the knight. Bishop to d4 check, king to h1. Here, king to g2 would have been a blunder because of queen to h4, and after you move the rook, this bishop takes on g4. You can take, and now you cannot go king to h1 because of queen g1 mate. Therefore, you have to block with the knight, and this would be an overwhelming attack by black. Therefore, Birbiga played king to h1, avoiding the complications, and now queen to h4. This attacks the rook on rook on e1. Now rook to e2 and queen to h3. This move ends up being magnificent later in the game, but bishop takes g4 was objectively stronger, and it's surprising how Tal missed this. Now queen to h3 attacking the knight there, and rook to g2 just blocking it. Queen takes f3 and knight to d2 attacking the queen. Queen to e3, knight to f1, queen to f3 and knight to d2. Draw? Is Tal agreeing for a draw? Is it possible? No. Tal does not agree for a draw. Tal chooses to sacrifice his queen instead. This is the perfect example of a Tal sacrifice. Once Tal said there are two types of sacrifices, correct ones and mine. And here he plays bishop takes on g4. Knight takes on f3. That was the only move because you have to accept sacrifice. And it is not clear that the sacrifice is sound or not, but there is no clear way to defend. And white collapses almost immediately after this. Bishop takes f3. Actually, you don't want to win this rook because this pinned and you can take it anytime. h4. Now, h4 was not that great a move according to Mikhail Tal himself. Although h4 aims to give room to the king, because rook e4 there was a threat of rook to e5, knight to g3 and rook to h5 mate. But because rook e5 wasn't played yet, maybe the tempo could have been better used later. Now h4 and rook to f8. Bishop to e2, and this is the blunder because it almost gives up the advantage. Pause the video and think the winning combination. Knight to g3, check. And here Birbigam became a victim of the famous Tal queen sacrifice. King to h2, and now bishop takes g2. Queen takes g2 and knight takes e2. Here after queen takes e2 there is a fork on f3, but if you don't take the knight, I'm already a pawn up. And my pieces are excellently placed. Therefore queen takes e2, f3 check, it's all over. White is a pawn up and soon he is gonna be 2 pawns up. Takes. Birbigar continued for a few moves, but it was already lost. King takes f3, rook to f8 check, king to g3, and with his beautiful maneuver, bishop to e5 check, king g2 and bishop to f4. Now black is winning another pawn because after takes and rook takes f4, both the pawns are attacked. The game may have continued, and here in this position Birbigar resigned. But the game may have continued. Bishop to f4, now rook to a1, a5, b3, bishop takes, now rook to f4. Anyways, you're going to lose a pawn. You can defend one but not both. Therefore, that was the position in which Birbigar resigned the game. So friends, I hope you liked this video. If you did, do drop your comments in the comment section below and subscribe to Master Chess. Thank you.